Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from elite boarding school isolation traps, weaponized teenage history secret loops, and high-density peer extortion parameters, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of modern forensic laboratory isolation traps, weaponized genetic genealogy cold case loops, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an endangered collection of raw historical trauma survival and DNA family matching networks running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, paranoia-slicked parameters of a scorched, high-density forensic science data layout, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of a devastating, decades-old infant abduction reconstruction and tracking matrix with Long Time Gone, the exceptional, pulse-pounding Gothic-tinted contemporary thriller and comprehensive modern technological endurance compendium engineered by the absolute, undisputed global sovereign of breathtaking scientific secrets, razor-sharp narrative traps, and high-velocity structural friction, Charlie Donlea. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where an endangered primary investigative asset running an unyielding truth extraction loop, a calculating, manipulative shadow network of a hidden biological family infrastructure, and an absolute defense against an encroaching, memory-confined psychological erasure containment zone collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn creative journeys where endangered, hyper-observant protective scientist protagonists must navigate an absolute maze of rigged character perspectives, corrupt genetic profiling files, and a deadly ring of active personal deadline frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised law enforcement ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep psychological profiling, calculated DNA mapping rescue boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset weaponizing highly advanced genealogical database timing and family history cover-up mechanics, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, meticulously paced, locked-in forensic lab incubator tracking a vulnerable medical student and a scarred historical abduction case who deploy advanced procedural analysis and clandestine genealogy alliances to systematically forge a seemingly impenetrable defense before crossing a terminal exposure milestone diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Donlea completely dominates the high-precision, unreliable narrator jeopardy meets suffocating narrative erasure puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating blank-page paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by classic and genre vargs like Lucy Foley, Frida McFadden, Gillian Flynn, and Karen Slaughter, while treating realistic baseline terminology logistics, complex dark possessive loyalty arcs, and protective high-density isolation extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse creative asset, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of a total loss of her original biological identity, absolute structural liquidation logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a cutthroat criminal investigation matrix. Behind our protagonist, Dr. Sloan Hegeman's rigorous daily footprints, defensive conversational shields, and sharp observation metrics lies an intricate matrix of hidden structural vulnerabilities, deeply buried survival instincts, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following an abrupt plot outline deviation sequence, struggling to complete her advanced forensic pathology residency while processing a shocking consumer DNA testing result that matches her profile to a famous 1995 infant disappearance. Her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from a network of internal distraction forces, parsing complex behavioral shifts in her daily multi-timeline interaction loops, and shielding her vulnerable personal sovereignty node from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite family cover-up offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. While sorting through a series of routine daily operational constraints inside her highly monitored research refuge, our primary asset registers a total security breach when her forensic genealogy search initializes an irregular descent into active historical abduction logs, systematically tracking hidden mid-90s high society scandals, forbidden parental casualties, and unvetted criminal history associations, forcing her into a proximity tracking matrix with an oncoming narrative resolution. Behind the quiet suburban facade and elite medical mapping style lies an intricate matrix of severe ideological warfare and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial investigation phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a ticking clock timeline, matching an active, terrifying law enforcement investigation, the unauthorized discovery of missing historical truth templates, hidden intimate motivations, and alter tracking templates reveals that her entire childhood adoption sanctuary was an explicitly engineered trap. The standard boundaries of routine scientific courtesy and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind closed doors during a cold case
excavation event, where a highly manipulative psychological gaslighting matrix launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress their survival data stream and execute their complete systemic erasure. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their social and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the large university lecture halls, dark clinical autopsy suites, and private fortified research offices into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroes are forced to deploy their massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve their focus before their adversary's relentless calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes their bounders. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, shifting dynamically through precise execution guidelines from initial 1990s baby nursery disclosures to final modern-day locked-room confrontation loops across multiple unreliable points of view, determined to deploy deep sensory manipulation loops, continuous psychological gaslighting via academic and administrative distraction maneuvers, and persistent dominance to shatter their defense, only to realize their hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of personal medical journals, every silent choice to stand off against an electronic apex predator behind standard structural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at their reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Predator Network's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Charlie Donlea reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial week 1 ambush or managing an invasive spousal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and absolute structural supremacy, while our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark, possessive loyalty around their building creative survival alliance. A brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes midstream point of view shifts switches the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated obsession has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending lock-grade trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, a resilient protagonist must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a high-velocity forensic pathology psychological cold case captivity noir, genealogical genealogy murder mystery, and high-velocity multi-timeline technological puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one unreliable narrator lie triggers a fatal deadline showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Donlea writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate fallout, and the distinct, subtle scent of chemical fixatives, crisp printouts, old police files, smartphone glare, cold sweat, dark adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary instructional marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic, modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Long Time Gone is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.